I never thought a simple knock on the door could change everything. It was late, later than I usually stayed up, and the streets outside were quiet, almost too quiet. I was scrolling through my phone, half watching some old videos, when a message popped up that made my heart skip. "Come over. I'm alone." It was from Emma, my neighbor's daughter. She was 22, bright, a little mysterious, and honestly, I'd always been curious about her. But curious in a casual, friendly way, or at least, that's what I told myself. Her texts were never like this. They were usually normal. "Hey, need sugar?" Or, "Can you help me reach the top shelf?" But this one had a different tone. There was a quiet urgency to it, a sense of something wrong, maybe even dangerous. I sat there frozen for a moment, staring at the screen. My mind raced. Was she serious? Was it some kind of joke? My gut told me that it wasn't. There was fear in her words that I couldn't ignore. I mean, Emma wasn't the type to flirt or tease. She was cautious, careful, smart. If she was alone and reaching out to me, something was off. I grabbed my jacket, telling myself it was just helping a neighbor. That's all. Just being a decent human being. But even as I walked down the hallway, my heart kept thumping faster. Every step felt heavier, like I was walking into something I couldn't fully understand yet. When I reached her door, I paused. I could hear faint noises from inside, almost like whispering, or maybe just the TV left on. My hand hovered over the doorknob, and I felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. There was something compelling about the way she'd reached out. It wasn't just a neighborly request. There was something darker under the surface, something that made me hesitate. I knocked softly. "Emma." No answer. I knocked again, a little louder this time. The door creaked open on its own, almost as if it had been unlocked, and a shiver ran down my spine. Inside, the apartment looked normal at first. Lights on, furniture in place, a faint smell of vanilla lingering in the air. But then, I saw it. Something was off. Very, very off. And in that moment, I realized that I might have walked into something I wasn't ready for. Something that could change everything forever. And that's when I heard it, a sound that didn't belong, coming from the bedroom. I froze. My heart raced. Should I go in? Should I run? I knew I had to find out what was happening, but every instinct screamed at me to turn back. What I saw next is something I'll never forget. Emma had lived in our building for a few years, ever since she moved here after college. I'd known her casually. She was friendly but guarded, the kind of person who laughed easily but never overshared. We'd exchanged small talk in the hallway, borrowed sugar, or helped each other with packages. But we weren't close. Not really. And yet, there was something about her that stuck with me. Maybe it was her eyes, bright, observant, always seeming to notice things most people didn't. Or maybe it was the way she carried herself, confident but quiet, like she had secrets she didn't want anyone to find. I'd never imagined that one night, a single text could pull me into one of those secrets. As I lingered in the doorway, my mind replayed the past few weeks. Emma had been acting different. She'd been distracted, on edge, often staring at her phone like she was waiting for something or someone. I remembered the time she asked me to help fix her broken door lock. She had seemed almost scared, but I hadn't pressed her. I never thought I'd find myself knocking on her door, half expecting the usual small, mundane reason for her reaching out. I had my own life, of course. I worked long hours, kept my apartment tidy, and had a small circle of friends. I wasn't the type to get involved in someone else's drama. At least, I hadn't been. But Emma, something about her had a pull I couldn't explain. I wanted to be there for her, to make sure she was safe. And now, standing at her door, I realized just how little I knew about her life, about what might be happening behind closed doors. I thought about all those evenings I'd seen her window lit up late at night, her sitting alone with a cup of tea, headphones on, lost in her own world. It seemed harmless then, normal, even. But tonight, it felt different. The text had been urgent, desperate almost. And the silence when I knocked made my stomach twist. I had no idea what I was walking into, and that was terrifying. I wanted to call out her name, but my voice stuck in my throat. I thought about the possibility of trouble. Maybe someone was in the apartment with her. Maybe it was worse than I could imagine. And still, I couldn't leave. I couldn't just walk away when someone I knew was calling for help. The hallway behind me felt longer than it actually was, shadows stretching across the walls like they were reaching for me. I tried to calm myself, telling my mind it was probably nothing. Emma was fine. She just Needed company, maybe. But then a soft thump came from the apartment, like something heavy hitting the floor. My chest tightened. Something inside me told me I should turn around and run. Something else told me I couldn't leave her alone, not when she needed me. And in that moment, the question lingered in the air, heavy and impossible to ignore. What had happened to Emma that made her send that message, alone, at night, with no one else around? Before I could even decide, the door creaked further open, just enough to show a shadow moving inside. I stepped inside cautiously, the apartment unusually silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. My eyes darted around, trying to take everything in. The living room looked normal. Emma's favorite blanket draped over the couch, a few books stacked haphazardly on the coffee table, her shoes neatly by the door. Nothing seemed out of place until I heard it again. A low, almost imperceptible creak came from the bedroom. My stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I couldn't. Not now. I called her name softly. Emma? My voice shook more than I wanted to admit. Silence answered me. I took a step closer to the bedroom door, and then stopped. The doorknob rattled lightly, like someone was fumbling with it from the inside. My heart raced. I thought about the text, the words that had made me drop everything and come over. Come over. I'm alone. Alone? Was she really alone? I pushed the door open slowly, and the sight inside made my breath catch. Emma wasn't standing there, waiting. Instead, the room was dark, shadows pooling in corners. The faint light from the street outside cast strange shapes across the walls. Something on the bed, a movement, a shadow too heavy to be just a blanket. Emma, I whispered again, stepping closer. The hair on my arms stood up. I could hear my own heartbeat thumping in my ears, loud and uneven. Then I saw it. A door slightly ajar at the far side of the room, leading into a narrow hallway I hadn't noticed before. A faint noise came from there, soft at first, almost like a whisper, then a sharper sound, like something dropping onto the floor. I froze. Fear and confusion collided in my chest. My mind ran through every possible scenario. Was she hiding? Was someone else in the apartment? Was this a prank gone too far? Nothing seemed to fit, and that only made it worse. Then, just as I thought I might call out again, I heard a voice, a quiet, trembling whisper from the hallway. It was Emma, but not the way I knew her. Her voice was sharp, urgent, almost panicked. Don't come any closer. My heart sank. Something was terribly wrong, and whatever it was, she was in danger. But what kind of danger? And who, or what, was there with her? I took a step forward, and the floor beneath me creaked. That single sound seemed to echo through the apartment like a warning. And then, I saw movement from the shadows. Something, or someone, was watching me. The shadow moved again, just at the edge of my vision, and my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I wanted to retreat, to run back into the hallway and slam the door behind me, but my legs refused to obey. Something inside me, call it fear, call it stubborn curiosity, demanded that I keep going. I had to know what was happening to Emma. I stepped closer to the hallway, my hand brushing the wall for support. Every sound seemed amplified. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant ticking of a clock, even the subtle creak of the floorboards beneath me. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and uneven, and the whisper of my thoughts screaming at me to turn back. But then, another sound cut through the silence, a soft, almost pleading sob. Emma. My voice barely carried, but it was enough. The sob stopped abruptly. A heavy silence fell, the kind that makes your skin crawl, like the air itself is holding its breath. I could sense her presence just beyond the hallway, but I still couldn't see her. And then I saw it. The outline of someone crouched at the far end, partially hidden in darkness. Their shape was human, but distorted somehow, unnaturally still. Fear collided with confusion. My mind tried to rationalize what I was seeing. Had she been attacked? Was it a stranger? And if it was, where was Emma? I took another cautious step forward, and my foot hit something hard. I looked down and saw her phone lying on the floor, screen cracked, a single message still visible. Please help me. I swallowed hard and moved faster, almost stumbling into the hallway. Shadows seemed to twist around me, stretching the walls and ceiling into strange, shifting shapes. Every instinct screamed danger, yet I couldn't stop. I had to reach her. Then I heard it, a whisper, so close it was almost in my ear. Don't. It was Emma's voice again, weak, desperate, filled with terror I had never heard before. My chest tightened. I wanted to run to her, to grab her and pull her into safety, but a chill ran down my spine. Something about the air here was wrong. Heavy. Watching me. I peered into the darkness, straining to see, and noticed small, subtle signs that something had been here long before I arrived. A chair knocked over, papers scattered, faint marks on the floor. Whoever, or whatever, was here, they had been waiting. And now, with me inside, the tension seemed to thicken, as if the walls themselves were closing in. I took another step. My hand reached toward the figure, calling her name one more time. Then, the shadows shifted completely, revealing a flash of something that made my stomach drop so violently I thought I might be sick. Something unnatural, horrifying, and utterly unexpected. And just as I was about to move closer, everything went silent. I froze, realizing that the next moment could change everything. Whatever I was about to discover, it was going to be bigger, darker, and far more dangerous than I could have imagined. I froze in place, staring at what had emerged from the shadows. It wasn't a stranger, or at least, not entirely. The figure looked like Emma, but wrong. Her eyes were wide, glassy, almost empty. Her movements were jerky, unnatural, like she was being controlled by something else. "Emma," I whispered, my voice trembling. She didn't respond. Instead, she slowly turned toward me, dragging one foot behind the other, and a faint, chilling smile spread across her face. And then I noticed it, a dark, wet smear on her hands. I swallowed hard, my stomach twisting. This wasn't Emma, not fully. Someone, or something, had taken over her apartment, her life, her body. Before I could react, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into near darkness. From the far corner, I heard another sound, a whisper, but not Emma's. A voice cold, cruel, almost laughing. "You shouldn't have come." Panic surged through me. My mind raced. What had I walked into? And more importantly, how could I get out alive? I realized, with a chill that froze me to the bone, that the danger wasn't just inside the apartment. It was inside Emma herself. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I stepped back slowly, keeping my eyes fixed on the figure that looked like Emma. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't leave her like this. "Emma, it's me. My words caught in my throat. The thing in front of me tilted its head, mimicking her voice in a way that made my stomach churn. "No, you don't understand," it whispered, cold and hollow. I realized then that this wasn't just an intruder. Something had taken hold of her. Some darkness, some presence I couldn't even begin to comprehend. Panic collided with desperation. I had to do something. I lunged forward, grabbing her shoulders, willing the real Emma to fight through whatever had taken over her. Her body shook violently in my grip, and for a split second, her real eyes, bright, terrified, flashed beneath the hollow ones. "Emma, fight it, please," I shouted. She screamed, not at me, but at something unseen, deep in the shadows. And then it happened. The figure convulsed violently, as if an invisible force was pulling it apart, and for a moment, Emma's real self collapsed into my arms, trembling, crying, whispering, "It won't leave me." I held her tightly, terrified, but also relieved. I thought it was over. I thought we were safe. And that's when I noticed it. A second shadow, smaller, slinking along the walls, heading toward the bedroom door. My blood ran cold. Whatever had tried to control Emma wasn't finished. It had a partner. I spun around, heart hammering, just in time to see a faint figure vanish into the darkness, leaving behind a single, sinister message scrawled on the wall in what looked like blood. "This isn't over. You belong to us now." Emma clutched my arm, trembling, whispering, "We have to leave now." I realized, with a chill that froze me to the core, that surviving this night wasn't just about saving her. It was about escaping something far bigger, far darker, and far more relentless than either of us had ever imagined. We didn't wait another second. I grabbed Emma's hand, and we bolted from her apartment, down the dimly lit hallway, and out into the cold night. The streets were empty, eerily quiet, and every shadow seemed to flicker with some unseen presence. I didn't look back. I couldn't. All that mattered was getting her to safety. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs shook. Eventually, we reached my apartment, locked the door behind us, and collapsed against it, gasping for breath. Emma's hands were trembling, and her eyes were wide, haunted. She buried her face in my shoulder and whispered, "I don't know what it was, but it wasn't me." I felt it inside me. I held her tightly, trying to convey through my embrace that she wasn't alone, that no matter what had happened, she was safe now. And in that small, trembling moment, I realized something profound. Sometimes, the scariest things aren't what we can see, but what we can't, and the ones we care about most can become trapped in them. We spent the rest of the night talking, piecing together the signs I had missed, the moments she had seemed distant, the subtle fear in her eyes, the strange disturbances in her apartment. It all added up to one thing. She had been in danger far longer than I realized, and somehow, she had reached out at the only moment she thought she could. By morning, we had made a plan. She would stay with me for a while, away from that apartment, away from whatever had haunted her. We called the authorities, reported the strange occurrences, and even had the apartment checked for break-ins or intruders. There was no clear explanation. No one could tell us what had tried to control her, or why. But at least, for the moment, she was free. Over the next few days, Emma began to recover. The fear in her eyes softened, replaced by quiet gratitude. We laughed quietly over small things, a cup of coffee spilled on the counter, a joke about how I heroically saved her from a shadow monster. Those little moments reminded me that life could still feel normal, even after something terrifying. But even as we returned to routine, one thought lingered, heavy and unshakable. The shadow hadn't shown itself again, but the message it left behind stayed in my mind. You belong to us now. I didn't understand what it meant, and maybe I never would. But I did understand one thing. Some nights are meant to change us forever, to teach us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to act even when fear consumes us. And as Emma and I watched the sunrise together, I realized that no matter what shadows might come, at least for now, we were no longer alone.